2, City 0. And I tweeted just after the game, our injury-ravished team did okay, but we lost. And that makes it 5 defeats in the last 7 games, which ain't good. Interestingly, in the previous 13 games between these two sides, there'd been no draws. In fact, Cardiff was 7-6 ahead. Well, this afternoon's victory has made it 8. But not really surprising when you look at the injury crisis that is just getting beyond a joke now. I'm pleased to be joined by my regulars, Mark and Ian. You first, Mark. What we got to talk about the injuries because they're dropping like flies at the moment, aren't they? And it was a makeshift side. So what were your thoughts going into the game and immediately after?
Thoughts going into the game was who's Tommy Backwell that we had on the bench, and I found out that he was a 20-year-old midfielder, so another guy that's been promoted up from the academy. So good for him. But there's a reason behind that. And surprise, surprise, another injury. Of course, we were aware that Hayden Roberts had got a knock against Ipswich. Andy King had done his hamstring. We knew those were two were doubtful. And lo and behold, Matty James also got an ankle injury against Ipswich, taking our long list up to 12 injured players, which is just beyond our wildest nightmares. Anyway, the game, close game, not a lot in it. Cardiff's had a bit more physicality. Their bench really won the game in the second half. City lacked quality, but they didn't lack effort. But when you're switching the team around like we've done, left, right, and centre, and you've got quite a weak bench, that was the difference. Poor defending cost us both goals. And there wasn't a lot of difference between the sides. For a team, with all our injuries and the recent defeats against a team like Cardiff, who'd had an excellent run at home, very strong home team. We're in the playoffs. Didn't look a lot to be between the sides. You could say, "Wow, was it a missed opportunity?" But be quite honest, I think we can't argue with that based on what we're suffering at the moment. No quality, no goal scorer, problems passing in the final third. That's it.
That's the message. Ian, before the game, we were chatting. I don't think we knew that there were the other injuries, and I question whether Tommy was 100% fit. Otherwise, he'd have started. But goodness me, the crisis. It is a crisis at Ashton Gate in every respect now, isn't it? With the injuries, but it's the pressure's building on Nigel. Steve Lansdown's not talking to anybody. But what were your thoughts going into the game? Lucky if we come out of this without hiding. And in actual fact, we did okay, in inverted commas.
We didn't do okay, we lost. And I'm getting very much the same as Nigel Pearson. Like quite directly after the game, I'm getting fed up of hearing about it. And so am I. And I'm not getting paid a massive salary to watch it. Or, in fact, it's costing me money. So we've got a first team squad of 27, 4 of whom are goalkeepers. Now, that first team squad of 27 isn't all senior pros. It includes Knight LaBelle, who I thought did well when he came on. It includes Rafa Roya, who seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth. Includes Eamon Benarous, who's still not back, but I understand he is back training. So of that squad of 27, we've got 1 goalkeeper injured, and we've got 11 outfield players injured, which leaves us with 11 fit players, including the kids that are in there. So this is very, very serious. And if I was Steve or John Lansdown or the chief operations officer, Tom, I'd be getting everybody in a room, and by everybody, I mean the management team, and saying what the actual is going on. Because we seem to be getting injury after injury. They're never minor. It takes a long time for players to recover. I mean, I'll give you a classic example. Before last week, Nigel said Naki Wells is closest to coming back. Cardiff be a bit too soon, but he's closest to coming back. He was asked the question after the game, is anybody close to coming back? And he said Zach Viner and Cal Naismith. Now, I think Cal Naismith is lined up to play an under-21 game next week. Now, could we do with him back? Yeah, we could do with them all back. But we've got an awful lot of problems. And as Ross has commented on the feed, real lack of creativity, strikers starving the service. Could the board pull the trigger if we lose to Wednesday? Well, it's all very well pulling the trigger.
It's not going to make it better, Ian. It's not going to make it better.
That's what. But the trouble is, that's what boards do. They do it because the other alternative is far too expensive. They'd have to get rid of all the players and bring in another load of players, and they can't do that. So they think, right, we'll get rid of the manager. But it's no good getting rid of Nigel Pearson if we retain all the same. You'd have to get rid of Pearson, all his coaches, the medical team, the whole lot, because something down there is seriously wrong. Now, I don't pretend to know what it is,
all right,
but you can't have this continual at the start of the season, and this isn't being wise after the event.
Let's talk about the injuries and what have you at the end. Let's get back into the into the match action. What there was. I mean, Mark, right. I'll go back to Mark on the first thing, and then I'll come to both of you for the goals separately. Mark, early on, I thought we did okay. You know, Cornick was looking lively up there. I mean, Sykes, you know, he's turning into be a more versatile player than a winger. He was featuring on the left, yeah. But we didn't start the game too badly, did we?
No, we got a couple of good chances in the first 3 minutes. Mehmeti had the ball on the left side, pushed it in with his right foot to Harry Cornick, went outside the player and he curled it. And I think Olnick got a slight touch. Yeah. And pushed the ball wide for a corner. The corner was recycled. Sykes beat a couple of players, played it to Dickey, but he's leaning back, slices the ball over the bar. But a good start from Sissy.
Yeah. Ian, Dickey, he's proving to be in that group of players that you would say is a good signing. He took one for the team when he took down is it Callum Robinson? I get Callum Robinson and Callum Wilson mixed up, but you know, when you commit a foul like that early on in the game, you're on tenterhooks for the rest of it, aren't you?
You are, but God help us if he gets injured, because he seems to be, touch wood, I'll call it a rock at the heart of that defence. And Bristol City played, I thought we were the better team today for lots of the game. If you took a middle chunk of the game, we were the better team for lots of it until we completely ran out of puff and the second goal killed us. As Mark said, the defending for the second goal was Parks. I mean, he's walked past, was it Knight and Cornick?
Yeah, the left-hand side. And he was going away from goal when he did that.
And then you start thinking, well, what was Cornick even doing over there? Although, when I looked at the team before today, in my mind, I thought, well, yeah, I can see what he's doing. And that's how you organise those players. The team, the way it lined up was completely different from what I thought. And we had at least 4, if not 5 players out of position on top of the people that we've lost. So if you're looking for a recipe for confusion, but I don't think we were any worse than we normally.
Well, I thought we were better. If you take
we've
that,
just got
nothing.
We've got nothing in the final third. No. We haven't got. We overhit passes like mad, or underhit them, and our crossing is dreadful. So how people expect Tommy Conway to, come on and make a difference? I got no idea.
Okay, Mark, you were raising your hand there.
Yeah, I think the word is we're competitive in as much we stay in games like we did against Ipswich the other night. That was like a basketball game. Today we stayed in games because they didn't have much quality, and I think they were happy to let us have the ball in the second half. And there were some good moments, especially from Jason Knight, to an extent from Mark Sykes. But once and Taylor Garner, Hitman, maybe but once those three's influence waned, when there were changes from the bench, forced, what we'll come to it, we really lost our way. But a couple of things that I saw that we coming to, if we look at the game chronologically, we got poor touch in good areas. There were 2 times a day when Mehmeti burst forwards, and his first touch was really poor. Luckily, the ball got pushed straight out to Jason Knight, had a chance. The second, Yeboah, acres of space, building up for our own half through the middle, but he's pushed the ball 5 yards in front of him. It's almost like he's really excited to be in so much space. But like because he's pushed, because one of his touches is just too hard, of course, one of their players comes straight in and we're defending back again. Yeah. Just some of the basic things, like coming out of defence, poor decision making. Cornick did it, a few players did it, easy passes to players in space, don't go to them, and we lose the ball. Okay. Very poor.
Okay, we started well, but a bit like against Ipswich, the other team got more into it. Ian, the first goal, Max O'Leary, I was calling him Steve Phillips the other day, wasn't I? I don't know what I was doing there. Max O'Leary, he got pelters for the one he let in against Ipswich, although he did decent saves either side of that, so on percentages he was ahead. It's a corner. Should he have got that?
Well, he shouldn't have got the header.
That's what I mean. But should he have got?
I'd be asking the question. Possibly he could have come out into that melee and had a punch of it. But to be honest, you wouldn't expect Perry and G to be unmarked about, what was he, 8-10 yards out?
Yeah, he was unmarked, wasn't he? Because there was enough of our players there. But
would you want him? He comes out. You're not going to win as a keeper because you come out that far, try and punch it and don't get it right, and it hits the guy in the face and it drops over the line into the net. Everybody says, "Why didn't the idiot stay on his line?" So, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't necessarily fault Max O'Leary for that.
Okay, that's good because some people on Twitter were doing that. Let me ask you, Mark, same question. I mean, Max, he didn't have that much to do today, and what he did do, he did adequately.
Well, with the goal, the corners come in from the right. I looked at it. It's funny because Rob Dickey actually jumps towards NG, but he has to jump over a player and can't get near him. Cornick doesn't get off the ground at all. No. And G is Cornick's man, and he did that look. Remember, Liam Fontaine used to look up and raise his hands, when he can see the goal that it was his fault. But he's just brushed past Cornick. Cornick's got to make a challenge. He's got to try and stand and make it difficult for the player to get onto the ball. He just brushes past him. He's right in the middle of the goal, and he heads it through O'Leary.
Jump in. You're not going to give away a penalty. Just jump up and jump backwards. Get in his way.
Because what normally happens is the player will head the ball up. He'll head the ball up because he can't concentrate on the ball. He had so much time to push it in. It was embarrassing.
It was a good header. Ian, should there have been a man on the post? Because that sort of seemed to be a bit of a gap between Max and the post.
That seems to have gone out of fashion in the modern game. Yeah. Nobody does it anymore. I mean, years and years ago, there was always normally the fullback, but there was at least one player on the post, if not two. And the number of goals I've seen scored that wouldn't have been scored if a side had a player on the post is unbelievable. But it's not in the modern thinking. It's a little bit like having a left-sided player on the left wing. I mean, good God, who'd want to do that? Everybody's inverted now, aren't they?
You think we'd be a bit more physical in those situations?
Asking people to be physical. It's like asking you to go up against Tyson Fury. It's not going to happen, mate. If you're physical, if you got somebody like Dickey, 6'4", probably 13 and a half going on 14 stone, yeah, fine.
Well, the thing is, he did his bit, but he wasn't near it. Where was the cover? There wasn't anybody else.
Who else is there in the team?
It was Cornick.
Who else do you expect to edit? I mean, in fairness, that was the only problem we really had from a set piece all day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was their strong suit. That was not allegedly.
Yeah.
Factually, that's their strong suit.
So I don't
They
think
had a
that's
man up front well, you could say he led the line in Mete. If leading the line is kicking lumps out of our players all over the pitch. That was what he did. He was quietly effective in terms of racking up
But
fouls.
wouldn't you want to have a player like that rather than our powder
Yeah,
fuck?
yeah. If you're going to play,
Right.
it was the same old thing. If you're going to play 4-2-3-1, your one's got to do something. Ours doesn't. We haven't got somebody who's capable of holding the ball up.
Well,
we know that.
He made
old thing.
halftime substitution. Tommy Conway came on. Now I'm guessing Tommy was maybe only half fit. Tommy's not looking like the player who scored those 2 goals at Rotherham, Mark, is he?
Well, he's not getting the ball. That's the problem. If you're not getting any service, what can you do with it? I think he might come on to the fact. I think he had one chance where he was going away from the goal. That was a half chance where he blazed it wide, but really he didn't get any service. He was forced wide, looking for the ball, but like Ian alluded to earlier, the crossing was awful. It was early crosses from in front of the penalty area. We didn't get the ball. We didn't get the ball in wide position behind them at all.
Well, I thought Sam Bell was indifferent, as he has been for a week. But Ian, we talk about the service, right? Yeah, if you look at the 2 players in the middle, Taylor Gardner-Hickman and Knight. Now, they're both tidy players. I thought Knight had a good game, maybe not quite as good as he did against Ipswich. Taylor Gardner-Hickman, I quite like him. He did lose the ball late on in our own half. I think he created that situation when he lost it, when it was 4 of theirs onto 2 of ours. But we've got in front of those 2, there's another 4 players, right? Is the shape and it's every week that we're getting this, that the men aren't getting the service. So do you have to start pointing the fingers at the training regime? Injuries apart, yeah. Taylor Gardner-Hickman, Knight, both of those would get in the matchday squad of every team, if not start in the division, I would say. Certainly Knight would, yeah. Maybe. So
I can't see him getting in Leicester's team.
All right. Let me caveat that by saying other than playoff teams. Yeah. All right. But so 2 of our best players are at fault because you expect the midfield to provide the service. Yes? No?
Well, it's a combination of things. You expect good distribution from the back, which our distribution is. I don't know whether the grass was a bit long today, but and I know it was heavy and it was wet over there. And modern pitches are a lot better than the old ones were. But a lot of Cam Pring scuffed a lot of passes today, and they were inaccurate. The 2 guys in midfield, I think, did okay, but we've got a lot of people out there doing okay. But answer me this question: how many goal-scoring chances did we create? And the answer to that is
we had 8 shots and 1 on target.
I think we had 2. I don't know if they counted. I don't know if they counted the Cornet one in the second.
You can have but you can have a shot. You can have a shot on target from 30 yards, and the keeper can throw his cap on.
Oh yeah,
and I remember their keeper making one save, and it was what I'll call it. It was a reasonable save. I won't even call it a good save. The one from Knight from distance. And that came from a misplaced pass from somebody. The number of times we underhit or overhit passes, clip the ball out into space for Sam Bell, and it runs straight out for a goal kick. And I'm really, it's something that you should be able to solve in training. Right. So the difference in golf between chipping a ball onto the green and smashing it 350 yards. Yeah. Getting a 9-iron on it or getting a chipper, and I don't like you don't like castigating individual players, but we keep doing it.
All right, but when you don't like castigating individual players, and I was criticised on OTIP for saying, "Oh, you won't say this to somebody's face." Well, no, I probably wouldn't, any more than the person that said that wouldn't come and say it to my face. You know who you are, GC, right? You're absolutely clueless, right? But on the training pitch, you'd think that we've got a forwards coach in Jason Ewell and two defensive coaches in Nigel and Curtis. Yeah, we've never had a forwards coach down there before, have we? So you'd expect some sense of nous to be coming through. Yeah, would you not, Mark?
Well,
Mark.
I mean, I think you look at our play, and I think Tomo may have picked up on this on the or Spudsky on OTIB, was that the angles that we make when we're attacking, especially in wide areas, are quite poor. Players, if you watch it today, anybody watch the game, sometimes players are on top of each other. They don't make it easy to play the next pass, to make an angle, to keep the ball moving. Very rarely do we do that. So what tends to happen is then the ball comes back today. For example, a few chances, Joseph James, you get the ball in a wide area. There's nobody making a run for him to play the next pass. So we'll cross the ball early and the ball will come straight out again. Yeah. And we'll try again. Somebody's got to they've got to play a 1-2 and work the ball into a wide area and try and get behind Cardiff to make the defenders face the wrong way, or at least stretch them. We make it quite easy for teams to defend in terms of the way that we play. When we do play players into the front, I think you saw a couple of hard passes from Taylor Garner-Hickman and Jason Knight. Well, they'll hit a hard ball into a player on the edge of the area. We haven't got players who can trap the ball. It'll just bounce straight off and come out again. They can't hold the ball and turn. You have a Semenyo, fine. Trap that ball, turn, take it past the player. We don't do that. So we're very limited, and we're making it difficult for ourselves when we do go forward.
Ian, one of the most experienced player on the pitch, captain for the day, right? Again, I will call him the out of control speedboat arm pointer. There we go. Thanks, Chris, on it. Andy Weimann, he hit one over the top and he flashed a header over. But, you talk about leadership on the pitch, and it was interesting. Zach Viner was in the commentary box today, and he was saying Cal Naismith is a player that will chastise teammates if they're not on it. But goodness me, Andy Weimann, you'd expect a bit more from your captain and most experienced player, would you not, Ian? Or am I being harsh?
No, I don't think you're being harsh. He's completely out of form. But who else have we got to pick? I mean, you could say, well, don't care, play one of the kids. You could do that. But I think we know that there's a footballer in there because of what he's done previously. But at the moment, I don't like him playing on wide of that three. Why not? I mean, you've got Mehmeti, who's a winger. You've got Sam Bell, who's right-footed. So why not play Sam Bell on the right wing? Mehmeti on the left, who, by the way, is also right-footed, but play Weimann behind the striker, which is where he scored all his goals. So why not do that?
And could he not have done that today, though, Ian? Because, you had Taylor Garner-Hickman and Knight as the holding, Knight is more of a bombing forward, but Taylor Garner-Hickman and Knight playing the holding roles. Weimann could have come in that role, and done exactly what you said there, couldn't they? Really?
Well, we could have played with two strikers, which is what I would have done and gone for it. And I certainly would do that against Sheffield Wednesday. But it appears that Nigel's not having any of that, and therefore we go on doing the same as we've been doing, which is lose games with no quality and no cutting edge.
Well, no excitement for fans,
And there really is my overwhelming emotion watching the team, particularly when I'm at Ashton Gate, is boredom.
Yeah.
I'm just sat there and I am bored witless, to be perfectly honest.
Ian,
you see somebody get hold of the ball. You see somebody do you remember a pro player that came to my mind today? Remember Kevin Amankwa?
Yeah.
Well, the young lad Yeboah is putting me in mind more and more. I know now before somebody said, well, Kevin Amankwa was a right back. Yeah, fine. Kevin Amankwa used to get the ball, he used to surge forward, he used to beat a couple of players, and we'd all go, whoa, hey, wow. And then he'd proceed to boot it right up the back of the East End.
Yeah.
Couldn't cross the ball for Toffee.
No.
And I finished up, I think he finished up playing for Merthyr Tydfil or somewhere.
Yeah, now, it's Sutton for a while as well, I think.
Well, I mean, Yeboah comes on and he always seems to want one or two more touches. He can't see a pass. He's quick. He's a good athlete. And if hard work was good work, I mean, I'd give him 11 out of 10 for his work rate.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But he doesn't produce anything.
You said
That's my point.
Whenever Yeboah comes on, it's the same. It's more than a cameo because, coming on for, what was he on today for? For 25 minutes, 30, right? It does come down, surely it comes down to coaching where you say you're chasing players down really well, but just think a bit, Ephraim. Just think, Jason.
He's a 17-year-old kid.
Jason, you'll put him to one side and just say, well, we've all had kids. You say they don't listen. Well, sometimes they do. Well,
he's what I'm saying is he's 17, but he's only in the squad because of all these injuries. And whatever we say about the team, it's going to come back to injuries.
Yeah. Okay, Mark.
Perhaps every team in the division's got these, but I got absolutely pilloried when at the start of the season I said we need a bigger squad because we've always got 4 to 6 players out injured. And I was called all sorts and told I was being negative and talking nonsense. Well, now look, we've got 12 out.
So the chickens have come home to roost for that very same point that you said. Mark,
let me ask Mark. And we had the money to strengthen.
Yeah, Mark, quick word from you on Andy Vyman. He's out of contract in the summer, I believe. Is he? Yes.
Yeah, possibly. I wouldn't give him another year.
If he maintains the form, okay, he might come in with 6
form?
Yeah, no, all right. If he doesn't improve, he's not helping his chances of getting a contract next summer. So maybe he'll become a match analyst on another podcast. I didn't say that. Mark, Anis Mehmeti, he's been... When he started that game at Sunderland, he was signed by Nigel for being the Maverick. This was an audition. I thought he showed 1 or 2 touches, but he was taken off 2/3 into the game. How did you rate Anis Mehmeti's performance today?
Similar to Yeboah in a way. Got into good positions, but his first touch is poor. Yeah, he can beat a couple of players, but then his next touch is poor. It just championship football. He just wants too many touches. When Knight had that shot, it was because he lost the ball and we got the ball straight back. But he needs space in front of him to run into, or he can finish like he did against Stoke. But you're not going to get gifts. You're not going to get gifts like that every week. When you're going to just side foot the ball in. He needs regular games that he's not going to get, unfortunately, because of the situation that we're in. I really don't know. At the moment, he just doesn't look good enough. It's brutal sport. You've seen it today, with the players that we plan to play, with the likes of Joe James getting cramp after about 60 minutes because the intensity of the game starts forcing mistakes.
I thought he did well today. I thought Joe James did well.
Yeah, whatever ability he's got, and I'm sure he's got banks of ability, you've got to take your chance. He's been given a chance. He's got to take it. And he's just not good enough, unfortunately. Yeah. But he only started today because of the injuries again. Because Nigel he promoted Yeboah over him on for Wednesday's game. He preferred to bring Ephraim Yeboah on again. And today we can possibly see why. And Joe James, that Mehmeti, unfortunately, just isn't good enough.
Yeah, no, and that's
sad,
it.
But true. That's it.
Ian, how did you think Joe James played? And Sykes is sort of, I classify Sykes as a good signing. He was a bit poor prior to the international break, but today and against Ipswich. But your comments on Joe James and Sykes?
I thought Joe James did okay. He obviously cramped up in the end, and they had to take him off, which was sensible. And they then reverted to the defence that I honestly tweeted a couple of days ago that I would have actually started with. So you've got Campring back in his best position. Sykesy actually looked better on the left today than he did when he moved over to the right, which surprised me. But I think by the time he moved over to the right, he was absolutely knackered. So yeah, Joe did okay. Didn't let himself down. Did a hell of a lot better than Hayden Roberts did when he started against Coventry. So I'm quite sure that he'll be around. I mean, once again, the lad's only around the squad because of all the injuries, but we haven't got anybody coming back anytime soon. I mean, possibly if Zach and Cal Naismith come back, they make a massive difference, obviously.
Well, they do if they come back.
But they ain't going to make a massive difference in the final third. No, and that's the problem we've got.
That's true. I just want to read out some of the text comments here. Picks up on players coming back because there ain't going to be for next weekend. We will lose next week if we only have the same players to pick from. That's Craig Ledman. Ross Edwards said he watched Southampton on Sky. We look planets apart from that. Well, they were in the Prem last season. We're in a dogfight. Forget top 10. Matthew Seaward. All this comes down to Pearson. No, I think it really all comes down to Mr. Lansdowne, to be quite honest with you. But there we go.
You look at I think Vyman bears some responsibility as well because with Joe James, because he didn't give Joe any opportunity to link up with him.
20 odd goals in 21, 22
if you're not getting the ball, just drop deep. Give Joe James some option to play the ball to you. Didn't give him a chance to link to go wide at all.
Absolutely
so he spent most of the game playing deep, and he was tidy. He was very tidy. Yeah. He was up against Callum Robinson, who didn't give him the runarounds. He wasn't found wanting. He wasn't out of position. I think he had a tidy game, and he just got found out by his fitness. But 60 minutes of a local derby mentally is going to drain you as well as physically, and I think he did okay.
He did okay.
He did okay. No problem at all.
Darren England was the referee for that Liverpool Spurs game a few weeks ago when there was all that controversy with the VAR. He'd been on the naughty step. He gets put in charge here. I thought there was a couple of decisions of his that were pretty disgraceful, to be honest. I mean, Gutas certainly pulled Yeboah's shirt late on. Would that have gone to VAR in the Premier League? And then, okay, the game was lost, but Tommy got thrown on the ground. How did you rate Darren England today as a referee? And would you in the Premier League, would that Yeboah incident gone to VAR? I thought he did pull his shirt, but what did you think? And that incident and the referee.
I mean, the VAR argument is a bit of an if you're anti-ad, should be your uncle. We haven't got VAR, so there's very, very little point in talking about it. And the Conway one was right over on the touchline, and it might have been a free kick, might not. I don't think he's a very good referee.
No.
And I think, but there are quite a few of them about. But it wasn't Darren England's fault that we lost that game today.
No. What did you think of the referee?
So I wouldn't I wouldn't blame him.
No, he was pretty inconspicuous other than those two.
The thing that annoyed me was Mete. I mean, it took him 6 fouls to get before he was carded.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one ridiculous one. He'd already been booked, and then he decides the best way to get past Mark Sykes in our area is to push him 5 yards. I mean, he bowled him over. It was quite comical. Then pretend that nothing had happened. It made me smirk. But going back to Yeboah, I think it would have been a soft penalty. I don't think it was a penalty. What I'm disappointed at for Ephraim, and he's done it 2 or 3 times now when in very good positions or in decent positions, he hasn't got a shot off, or he hasn't passed the ball. You want to try and see him get an effort on goal. He's got past one player and he's got to go inside. Just stab the ball, do something. Just don't, people, nobody will give you pelters if you've had an attempt.
No, well,
he'll get a lot of cover because he's a 17-year-old, one of our own. So he'll get a lot of cover for that. But if he keeps making those decisions in good areas, people will lose a bit of patience. Just have a go, son.
We talked about the goal, or Ian brought it up earlier on, and I don't want to delve into it again. I mean, the way Colwell went past Knight and Cornick was pretty piss poor, to be honest. And the only thing I was going to mention about that was that lad's first goal in 19 months, and that's so many times.
Well, look at
we always have that player that breaks his goal scoring duck, don't we?
Well, you got him, and I think him and Ollie Tanner on the right hand side made a real difference. Their power and a bit of pace, but the goal. Sykes, all he's got to do is run up the line. We're in a good position. He could take the ball into their half. He could push the ball on. So we got a goal scoring opportunity. He plays a ball hard into Taylor Gardner-Hickman. Hickman loses the ball. The ball's down our end. It's switched to the right. Tanner has a cross when they got about 4 players in the box. Dickey has to make a good block. Then from the corner, it misses everybody. Colwell is actually running away from the goal. And he's got Knight and Cornick for company who are facing up to him between the corner flag and the goal. One of them has got to challenge him. He flicks it with his left foot through them, just walks towards the goal and then smashes it into the roof of the net. Now those two, I'm sorry, it was a good finish, but those two, dear oh dear.
Hold your heads in shame, boys.
It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
You've got to make a challenge.
Ian, these 4 players started for them, and I think I know one of them's on loan, but Maite, Grant, Robinson, and Bowler, right? They're all bloody good Championship players in the final third of the pitch, aren't they? And so, have they paid money for any of these? Were these out of contract? I'm showing ignorance here, but but any of those would walk into our side in one of our front positions, wouldn't they?
Bran was a subject. He was bought by West Brom. They bought him from Huddersfield, and I think they paid 16 million for him. And because I remember reading something where they were going to pay for it over 6 years, and that's how long his contract was. Robertson used to play for Preston, didn't he? Because he always used to score against us.
Yeah.
They are. Well, you said it yourself. They're experienced Championship players. Bowler always used to cause us problems when he played for Blackpool. I think he's actually on loan now from Forest, because Forest bought him when they bought about 300 players at the start of last season. And then they sent him out on loan to the Greek team that the guy that owns Cardiff owns Forest, owns as well.
Because he installed Carlos Corberan as manager there, and he only lasted 10 games, didn't he? Strangely enough.
Yeah. So look, they're experienced Championship players. We haven't got any, or we have, but they're injured. So, I mean, would they walk into our side? Would I particularly want them at Ashton Gate? Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of any of those 4, but like you say, they are experienced. And in a game like that, they will get on the end of something sometimes and score a goal.
Sat in the playoffs.
Callum Robinson. If anybody can remember this far back,
he was on loan to us.
He was on loan to us. Yeah, he was on loan for he was on loan for the first half of the 15-16 season, the first season we had back in the division. And I'm not sure if Steve rated him. He was on loan from Aston Villa at the time. Probably knew Eric Williams and a few players.
Clubs and scores against us.
Yeah, he was at West Brom. He's been around. He was at Sheffield United. He's been all over the place. Hasn't settled in the last few years, and he's ended up at Cardiff. Transfer embargo, where they must have a big settee because they keep finding money down the back of it. That's all I can say.
What's that, Cardiff?
Did
you say, Ian? Did you say Mite was he an out of contract player at Reading?
Yes, I think they signed him, and he would have been on decent wages.
And Grant is on loan from West Brom, isn't he? Because you said he was a 60. I don't know for 100% sure, but I'm guessing that's the case. Yeah, and
Mark's just having a bash at Google to see. No, I mean, look, you can go on all day. Well, if we had this player, if we had that player, what it all comes back to is what we did in the summer, and we got it wrong.
Well, we didn't do enough.
Well, we didn't do enough. We didn't spend any of the Scott money on either permanent signings or loans, and some of the signings that we have brought in are injured.
He's
Yeah.
on loan from West.
if,
He is on loan from West Brom. I mean, West Brom have got
I
lots
thought he might
of
be, and
financial
he'll be
problems,
on.
haven't they?
He'll be on massive money. They got him the same reason we got Taylor Gardner-Hickman, because of their financial situation.
They're
So
at the end of their elastic financially, aren't they, West Brom?
they're in a lot of trouble. So look, we didn't utilise the Scott money. Now, if we hadn't made permanent signings, we could have made some loans. And in the end, we did do a loan when we knew that McCrory wouldn't be back until what Nigel Pearson described as January, February.
Say Easter then with our record, yeah.
Well, could have, yeah. I mean, we don't know. But when I looked at the midfield today, we've got 3 what I'd call central holding midfield type players now. All of them are injured. And of our defence, it's arguably 3 of Pearson's first choice back 4 are also out injured. And then at least 1 of our first choice forwards was injured, and another one of the first choice ones for me was on the bench. But like I said, I don't think at the moment it matters much who we play up front, because they don't get any service from midfield and from the flanks.
Let me read some of the stuff off the text feed. This is Tomo. It'll be mad if Lansdowne pulls the trigger on Pearson soon in view of the injury crisis, but nothing would surprise me. Lansdowne needs to speak to the fans ASAP. Well, yes, he does, but he doesn't have to, because it's his train set, and he won't if he don't want to. Matthew Seward says, you can't keep moaning about lack of creativity when Pearson is playing our most creative player at fullback. Does that mean Sykes? Yes?
Possibly. Yeah, well, that's the only...
Well, he's the most creative, but he's not the I think we could do better.
I wouldn't say that.
No, I think what you got last day...
Sykes is a finisher, as far as I'm concerned. He can run in behind, can't he?
Is he played out of position? And the answer is yes.
Yes, he is. Is he creative? He's not the greatest crosser of the ball, and he got on the end of a few crosses coming in.
Who would you rather have on the right wing, Imre Vyman or Mehmeti?
Sykes, no brainer.
Yeah,
there you go.
Answered your own question then.
Yeah, we have. Matt Moore said we don't have quality in the ranks, even if everyone was fit. No, there's no even. If everyone was fit, we'd still be looking at 10th to 8th. I don't know. I think if everybody's was fit and looking at our fully fit squad, as people keep putting, look at our injured 11, that would be a top half team. I think we'd be a bit.
Not really.
I think we'd be at least 8th. And Matt Moore again, he said, I don't understand not having loans, but I also don't understand the logic wanting lots of homegrown players when we sell them as instantly as soon as they show quality. Mark, how did you feel today when you saw, I looked, 50 million quid's worth, near as damn it, of talent lining up for Bournemouth against Burnley today, and Semenyo scores, Lloyd Kelly's captain, and Alex Scott is playing, and I think they won today as well, didn't they? It's pretty bloody galling and disheartening, isn't it, Mark?
Well, but what can you do? What can you do, David? I mean, you've got to sell at some point. Agents will get in players' ears. They want to better themselves. In the case of Alex Scott, it was. I think we always knew that he'd leave. It was going to be a when. We there's no way we can keep older players when they're going to get salary five times the salary they're getting at Ashton Gate. Semenyo, I think really that's a good move for him, because I think the raw player. I don't think we ever saw the best of Antoine Semenyo. There was so much more for Antoine and Alex Scott. But Antoine was such an exciting player, and that's a great move for him going to Bournemouth. Alex, I think we always expected it, but what can you do to stop them? The money's there, the offer comes in, you can't do anything about it. The only way to do it is to succeed. Be further up the division.
Ian.
Well, yeah. Recruit better, bring in better players to play alongside them, and then they might stay, because we might get in the top 6. There you go. Simple.
I mean, Nigel's got to get a free pass, isn't he, with these injuries? But let's roll the clock forward. We got 2 games between now and the next international break.
Can we just have an international break month? I'm going to ring Gianni up and see if we can have all of November off. It'd be easier. Sorry, Ian.
We got Wednesday. We got Wednesday at home next week, and then QPR. And I'm just looking at the Championship table while I'm talking, and then QPR away. QPR were holding Leicester for a long period of the game today. Those sides are sat in the bottom group. I mean, we're slap bang mid-table. We've slipped away. We're still 5 points from the playoffs, which is, a third of the season gone. And then you look at Huddersfield. Huddersfield are 5 points clear.
We're 9 points off relegation.
Yeah, 9 points. But, the bottom three are coming adrift. Perish the thought. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday, we were talking about this the other week when, what was it? It came to Ashton Gate in November 73 and Alan Whittle scored. Crystal Palace, wasn't it? Match of the day.
Crystal Palace, yeah.
All season. I mean, this is a typical bloody banana skin for us next Saturday in against Sheffield Wednesday, isn't it? Yeah?
Well, I was just looking at our home form, or where we are in the home form table, and where Wednesday are in the away form table. So in the home form table, we're 17th. Okay, so Wednesday are 24th in the away form table, and their record is played 7, won none, drew 1, lost 6, scored 3, conceded 14, minus 11 goal difference, and 1 point.
Where do you think that? Have a quick guess where that draw was away.
Ipswich.
Leicester.
No, it's Leeds.
Oh.
Leeds. Right. So, and that's a local derby.
Yeah.
So if the view would be, well, if we can't beat them, then we ought to seriously pack it in, and we should be able to. Of the players that we've got fit, we should be able to beat them, right? But I mean, one thing that somebody called Matthew Seward has said on the comments that you didn't raise, Dave, was people are blaming Lansdowne, but you can't blame Lansdowne for the injuries. And that's very true. We should be able, now, if we get Zach and Cal Naismith back, even if that meant that Cal could go and play in central midfield, which would be good, then I'd say we should definitely beat them. But that really is a game that if we lost that, then I think Mr. Lansdowne might, I'm not saying might pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Because you, like I said earlier on, you can, and there does need to be a real, I'll call it an investigation down there as to what the hell's going on with all these injuries, because Pearson alluded to the fact that, well, a lot of the injuries, not all the injuries have been in training, and that's very true, but a lot have.
Yeah, and they just to think that.
Well, I'll give you Joe Williams,
yeah,
Ross McCrory, Eamon Benarouz.
Yeah, no,
we're training injuries.
We know what the list is. It's
Joe Williams.
I'm on about injuries. No, Dave, hang on a minute. You missed the point. I'm talking about injuries that we got in training, and injuries that we got in games. So Matty James, for example, was injured in a game. Hayden Roberts was injured in a game. Tommy Conway was injured in a game. So that's the difference. That's the point I'm trying to make. So, but there must be something with our fitness and conditioning or the training we're doing that is causing us to have this injury pile.
Is it the playing surface up at the hamstring? Probably?
No idea, Dave. No idea. I don't know.
We used to berate Andy Rolls and the court of Mark Ashton that they were crap, didn't know what they were doing, and now we've got a so-called expert. Is the ground cursed?
We've seen the facilities at the oh God, I hate calling it that, at the training ground, cryogenic room, plunge pool, the amount of equipment in the gym. It's just ridiculously, it reeks of investment. And then you wonder, with all this high tech stuff, sports science coming out of your ears, data crunching like you've never seen before. And then when we suffer those injuries, like self-inflicted. They feel like you think, what the hell? You do think, what the hell's going on? Because they're backed up by those impact injuries on the field. Now you could put up with 1 or 2, but when you've got 12, I mean, it's 12.
Well, the
12
third choice, I didn't realise
goalkeepers.
this. You told me, Ian.
It's
I think
crazy, isn't it?
You texted me. The third choice bloody goalkeeper was one of our 8 subs when we were allowed to name 9, wasn't he? So that was just to give him match experience.
Fourth choice.
Oh, because one's injured, isn't it? Yeah.
Who was that?
Yeah.
Which one?
Lewis Thomas.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Anyway,
he was Nigel Pearson's 23rd signing since he's been here, and he was signed on a short-term contract because Harvey Wells
was
Richards
that the guy
is
from Forest Green?
Yeah, he's out with a knee injury. Harvey's out with a knee injury.
He'll fit in well, wouldn't he?
What do you think? Let me ask you this question. If we fail to win either of the next 2 games, Ian, you first. Do you think Pearson will be here when we play the next game after the international break?
Well, the international break is a time that managers must dread if the club's not in great form, because it's a really easy time for someone to press the trigger. And it was possibly not a great idea for Nigel to talk about somebody in the hierarchy questioning him and all this, that, and the other. After a game, it was a game we'd won, so he had a little bit more latitude. But if he's looking for a new contract, I mean, honestly, people would say, well, you don't like Nigel Pearson. I like Nigel Pearson fine. I just don't like the results he gets. And he's not getting enough wins.
Yeah.
And it's been the same. It's the same for the last 3 seasons. Will he be here? If I was a betting man, I would say if we beat Sheffield Wednesday, he will. And if we lose to Sheffield Wednesday, he may well not be.
You mean he might not make it to the international break if we lose to Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say it's probably that. We've got to the point now where Steve Lansdown must be really cheesed off, because he spent all this money, and we'll keep talking about it, up to about 300 million. I know a lot of it's gone on infrastructure, but it's lovely infrastructure.
It's about half and half, Ian, isn't it, roughly? It's, in fact, 64.
Yes. Yeah, I would say so. And, he must be thinking, well, other clubs that have been more successful than us and that are being more successful than us this season haven't spent this kind of money. So why am I not getting enough bang for my buck?
Yeah. All right. Maybe
I think he's partly responsible, but I think if you look at it, he should have got better results with the players that he's got.
You're saying that, Mark,
2 wins in 7. We should still be getting better results. And trying to justify, I mean, on OTIB, I'm sorry, people out saying that he should be given a 2-year contract or a new deal. Are you just doing that out of sentimentality, or is it just
saying while he's been in the top half of the table, I've been saying, and you said it as well, Ian, but I think I probably said it first, but you give him a rolling 12-month contract from now, that is tantamount to just giving him a 6-month extension. Then you get a whole tribe of people in one camp that say, oh, that's disrespectful, blah, 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 blah. That's better than nothing, right? And you could give him a contract until the end of season that ends in 25. But, I sort of get why Lansdown's doing nothing, but it's starting to get to a critical point. Now, let me just ask you the same question, Mark, that I asked Ian. If he fails, now he could draw the next 2, and then he's got the injuries in the background that, it's not Pearson's fault the players are getting injured. Yeah, it's just rank bad luck. But do you think if he fails to win one of the next 2 games, Mark, that he'll be here for the return of football after the international break?
I think he he could possibly get a push if we lose to Sheffield Wednesday. And now they've got a chance to get their first win tomorrow. They're playing at home to Rotherham in a nice big derby, South Yorkshire derby. So let's hope they win that. But I think the sheer embarrassment, and you know what it's like at Ashton Gate, David, and Ian knows this. The crowd won't. There's no atmosphere unless there's something happening on the pitch, and you can imagine if it's 0-0 or we're losing, how dire the atmosphere is going to be. The tension, the swearing that's going to come, the expletives from the and the sheer embarrassment of losing to Sheffield Wednesday, if it is their first win of the season, would have on the club. And that
Well,
it could give,
I hate to say
the excuse. So yeah, it could happen.
I
Yeah,
hate to say this,
happen.
but after the
But
international
the trouble
break,
is, the other problem I got is, that could justify him going. But with our track record of recruiting managers, apart from the
I know.
odd one, and Steve Cottrell did a brilliant job when he came in. Turned the club around. And the only mistake that we made was poor recruitment in the summer of 2015. The club really should have gone forward. It didn't. It didn't move forward. It should have done, and we should have been where Ipswich Town are now, because we had confidence. We had confidence running through that side. We had a settled way of playing. It just needed a couple of additions, and we could have been in a great position.
Yeah. Well,
but with our track record of getting people, could you imagine him going and getting a foreign coach? There's lots of coaches out there, aren't there?
Riders in a minute. I want to talk about runners and riders in a minute.
Well, I mean, I just think we cock it up.
Ian, after the international break, right? Never mind what happens after the international break. It goes Middlesbrough at home. Although I think they lost to Stoke today, didn't they? Yes, is that right?
They did 2-0 at home. All
right, so their bubble burst a bit. Middlesbrough at home, Southampton away, Norwich at home. 3 games in 8 days after the international break. Yeah, this has been a relatively easy run of fixtures, hasn't it, thus far? But Ian, runners and riders. I mean, who was the Cardiff manager? Where has he come? What was his background? I never heard of the bloke before this season. Do you know anything about him?
He was in Turkish football, wasn't he?
I don't know.
Cardiff manager.
Yeah, Mark, do you know anything about him?
I don't know a lot about him. Mark's on Google again.
Yeah, I'm just looking.
No, he's on OnlyFans.
That's more fun.
I'm trying to find his ballot, isn't it? I'm trying to find. Let me just have a quick look. List of Cardiff City managers. Just bear with me a second.
Oh Christ! All right, Ian. While you're doing that,
no, I can't find him. Sorry,
all right, Ian. I mean, it'd be so Lansdowne to have joint managers of Ewell and Curtis Fleming, wouldn't it? Eh?
I don't think they last much longer, because you've got to look at what we've got in now. They're all, including Dave Rennie, they're all Pearson's guys. So this is another thing why I think they haven't pulled the trigger, because they'd have to get rid of a few. I mean, I know if they're under contract and they want to go, they wouldn't want to go if Nigel got the push. I think they'd want to stay, but it's a question of whether the new guy that came in would want them. Because if you're just going to go with what you've got now, you might as well hang on to Nigel Pearson. What's going to change?
Yeah.
Coming to a point, we got somebody, Tomo said, Steve Lansdowne must be cheesed off. He spent money previously, yes, but not in the last window, which is when we needed it the most. Yeah, but unfortunately, Tomo, the last 2 seasons before, the last 2 financial years before the one that hasn't come out yet, we lost 70 million, thick end of 70 million quid. Now, I know he resided over that, but it's still a lot of money, and he had to put a lot of money in to bail out, some would say, his failures. And on terms of Ross, Rovers fans, we cheering if Pearson signs a new deal. Couldn't care less about them. I think they got enough problems of their own, because they're not building a new stadium and they're going to redevelop the Met. That's the latest.
Yeah, no, that came out today. All right.
Errol Balut came from Gaziantep, a Turkish Super League team who I've never heard of. We've heard of Fenerbahce, Galatasaray,
Besiktas. That's about
Besiktas,
it, really.
who Adam Walsh played for, the famous Adam Walsh, briefly, didn't he? After he left City, yeah, he's been around, even spent time at Eintracht Frankfurt. But yeah, he joined in the summer. But never heard of the guy before. But there you go.
Ian, we're just bumbling along a bit at the moment, aren't we, this club? Because, it's pretty, I mean, a couple of people said on OTIB, people that have been fans, well, we've been fans for 50 years, people that have been fans for 30 years, so they didn't even have the joy of the 4 seasons, to coin that book title. But it is just depressing, because you want to get enthused. But that was today. Yes, we had the injuries, but it was a Bristol City performance that we've just come to. I mean, I find it incredible. It's 6 years ago, it'll be, since the famous Man United game and cup run and that start of a season. And
20th of December 2017. Yeah.
I mean, is it going to be? What's the end going to be? Because I wish he would sell. Yeah, because if he doesn't sell, he's still going to lose money. So if he's holding out for 200 million, why don't you take?
Dave, you can only. It's a bit like you trying to sell your house and nobody wants to buy it, because you're asking £5 million for it when it's only worth £1 million. So that's what it's like. And he's not going to. He doesn't need to sell it. It's not like he's skint or anything like that. So he doesn't need to sell it. No one wants to buy it. Because if someone wanted to buy it, it'd have been bought by now. And the more games we lose, and the more there's not a great feel-good factor around the club. I mean, we say that, but the home attendances and the away support has been fantastic.
Yeah, was it, another 3,000 there today?
Yeah, 22,000 against Ipswich for a midweek game. It's great. I mean, they brought 3,000 with them, but we're still very well supported.
Season ticket holders, Ian, and a gate like there was in midweek against the gate like there was against Ipswich in midweek. 14,000 season ticket holders. There's still 5,000 people making a conscious decision on a match day to rock up there when they've seen 6 home games, and we've won 2 of them.
7.
Yeah.
7.
And that's the point. Once again, Tom Boyce and I would have expected Lansdowne to give Pearson 8 to 10 million. I didn't think it'd be that much, and we probably didn't need that much. But he could have given 5 very easily and stayed with him financially. But he obviously doesn't want to. Now, the question you have to ask is he just thinking, well, if I don't give him the money, then it'll be available in January for someone else? Or is he thinking, well, I'll save it until January, see where we are. And if I don't think we're going anywhere, I'll save it until next summer. So we don't know. And the point was made that Steve needs to come out and do one of his Radio Bristol interviews, not the club site. That's a bit like Pravda, isn't it? Let's do an interview with Mr. Putin and tell him how great he is. So, he needs to do a Radio Bristol.
Ian, there's nobody at Radio Bristol now that is going to challenge him in the same way that Jeff Twentyman did.
Yeah, and
he can come on air then.
But he won't.
He come on air.
The problem with Steve is what he's done is he's destroyed his credibility to a big extent by saying those words, nest egg. He could have come and said, I want to make the club more sustainable, which is why I decided to do X, Y, and Z. Fair enough. But when you're talking about things like nest egg, people are just going to switch off. You might as well talk about franchises. You're just going to turn people against you. They're going to think, what the hell? You've invested the money. Don't start talking about piling up a stack of money. What are you going to do with it? I know it's your money, but don't start talking about like that. It's just crazy.
Oh God, no! I'm just. This is pissing me off. Not this.
Well, I think people are disillusioned, but by the same token, there doesn't seem to be
disillusion.
Because
there don't seem to be that many people.
Yeah.
I mean, are there a lot of people disillusioned with Nigel Pearson? You look at polls, and
No, he
things like
said
that.
we
And I
said
don't know.
wanted him to have a contract last week.
Yeah,
But
and
it's that,
my question to them would be why?
yeah, why?
And all you get is, well, he hadn't had any money to spend. That's the only thing that people. And look at the job he did at Leicester. I mean, nobody seems to be tuned into what his record is here and how we're doing and how we're playing.
You'll sound like Mark Carter if you carry on like that, Ian.
Well, it's not a question of sounding like Mark Carter. It's a question of stating facts.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
And he says he hasn't had money to spend, but he's had how many transfer windows has he had, and how many players has he bought?
Well, there's
23.
There are only a few clubs in the Championship who can actually boast some of the facilities that we've got. There's in the ground, in the training, and some of the budgets that we got have access to the staff that we got. But at the end of the day, if you don't get the results on the pitch, you can have as many shiny bulbs as you like. It makes no difference whatsoever, and that's what's going to help fans. But
it's a results
at the
game.
moment, it's a results game. So we're in a position where we'll take winning football over entertaining football right now because we're not winning games.
Absolutely. You say about facilities, Mark. Let me just come back to you, Mark, on there. Okay, Leicester probably better than us. Ipswich, their ground's a bit shabby. Leeds, their ground's a bit shabby. Don't know what their training ground is unless it's the one over the back of the stand where Cuffy used to do it. Southampton, probably good ground. Cardiff, don't know what their training grounds like. Hull got a new stadium. Sunderland, from that documentary series, Sunderland's training ground, I would say, is better than ours. Don't know about Preston. Don't know about West Brom, Middlesbrough, Stoke, Blackburn, maybe not great. Swansea, don't know. Birmingham, shitty ground being redeveloped. Watford, not a great ground. Norwich, Millwall, Plymouth probably haven't got great. I think I would say in that league, there's half of the clubs that have got facilities comparable, or we've got facilities that are comparable.
Yeah, we won't have the budget to some of those because a lot of those have spent time in the Premier League and they've been able to. They've had parachute money, and to some extent they'll still be retaining a lot of the players, although on reduced wages, because when they're relegated, they probably sign clause in their contract to say that they'll be on reduced wages when they get relegated into the Championship, whilst they're eyeing a move to another club, because of course there's going to be a big churn when you go down. Lots of clubs bounce back, but look at Norwich now. I mean, I'm surprised. I didn't realise they were actually below us in the league. Norwich were always relied upon to bounce straight back, but they're really treading water at the moment.
Okay, I want to go and get me Charlie Brigham's supper in a moment. We'll be back doing.
I didn't know he still brought yours over, David.
He doesn't bring it. No, I got it at Tesco's this afternoon. Thank you, Mark Minto. Great listen, guys. Depressing looking at Bournemouth Burnley game. 4 City players, of course, Josh Brownhill in the Burnley game. And as somebody said, Hanoa Masengo, you'd be playing regularly for Bristol City if you hadn't let your dad get inside your ear. And as a person put on Twitter, where your 9th choice midfielder up at Burnley. Ian and Mark, thank you as always. I say we'll be back next weekend, probably be Sunday morning. Although I got a christening to go to up in London on Sunday, so it might even be Saturday. Ian, you can come around my house and do it, and Mark will give you time to get home. But I'll be wearing a different. We don't.
I promise I'll wear a different shirt, and I'm going to get me worry beads and me prayer out for the next week.
We don't like moaning. We're disillusioned. We're upset. We want the best for City, and as it's always been this podcast. When we launched it in the middle of lockdown, it enables us to vent our spleen in the same way that we would if we were down the pub chatting about this. And I think, that's what everybody who listens, all 1,500 of you now, most weeks, you wouldn't listen if you didn't concur with our views, or even if you don't, as some people say, positive comments, don't always agree, but like the content. So Ian and Mark, thanks for your contribution. Everybody, thanks for listening. All the best, everybody. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers all.
Bye-bye.